So I said to myself one day, I very much remember driving down the LIE at 5:30 in the morning, and this thought hit me like a brick. I said, just do it yourself. I had never considered being an entrepreneur. I was fine being a salesman, working for a company. I did not have that drive that many of the young people do. They want to be on their own. They want to do their own thing. And I just I had to be one.
Welcome to the In Factor, conversations with entrepreneurs who started, stumbled, and succeeded. I'm Rebecca White, and I'm excited to welcome Tom Kehoe to the show today. Tom is the CEO of Idiom Publishing, and I'm especially excited because he's a University of Tampa alumnus where I teach. So, Tom, thank you for joining me, and welcome to the show.
So pleased to be here, Rebecca.
Well, this is really fun, and it's kind of interesting. I think we met over LinkedIn, right? Is that how we connected?
No, the university sends out the museum. Is that the name of the magazine?
Yes.
And I read about your program, and I was excited about it. So then I reached out to you on.
That's right. So you are a University of Tampa alumnus, and I think you said you live in Long Island. And so tell me a little bit about your background. Let's go back to the beginning. How did you find your way? Where are you from originally, and how did you find your way to the University of Tampa?
Well, I originally I was born in New York City, moved to Westchester when I was just a wee lad, and stayed there for 18 years. And then my first move in my whole life was down to the University of Tampa, where I had I found out about the university when one of the people selling the university came by, and I learned about them. I flipped through the yearbook, and I said, "This is where I want to go." I applied for one school, that was it, and was fortunately accepted, and it was really good.
Now was that a big move for you to because that we get a lot of students from all over the place, and so was that did any of your friends come too, or was that just something you?
No, it was no friends, and interestingly, a long time ago, but I think nearly 40% of the students were from New York. I mean, just in a very large number were from New York, and then the locals who I really bonded with. I love Southerners. I just love them. Learned to love them from my experience down there. And so, was it hard? No. I was 18, ready for changes, making things happen. So I was excited, and there's things I wanted to do and accomplish while I was at the university that the university made. Two reasons I want to go there is to scuba dive and play football. And then, the degree, fine, I get a degree.
Yeah. Well, that's the way it goes. But now you're an entrepreneur. So tell us a little bit about what you do. You're CEO of Idiom Publishing. What is Idiom Publishing, and what do you do there?
Idiom, everything, by the way. And Idiom is the first company to enter the digital yearbook marketing space. There are digital products, but they're ostensibly PDFs of a yearbook that are jammed into a phone. I have been in the yearbook industry since 1976 when I graduated. Became a salesman because that just kind of made sense. And so about 6 or so years ago, I was starting to realize that the print yearbook is going to go away at some point, and my clients began asking me for a digital solution. So I went out looking for one, and there was nothing. So I said to myself one day, I very much remember driving down the LIE at 5:30 in the morning, and this thought hit me like a brick. I said, just do it yourself. I had never considered being an entrepreneur. I was fine being a salesman, working for a company. I did not have that drive that many of the young people do. They want to be on their own. They want to do their own thing. And I just I had to be one. I went home that night, got home about 9 o'clock at night, went right up to my computer here in my office, And I did my research. Okay, what do I do next? And I went online and realized I have to write a business plan. And I, don't laugh at me, please, I wrote a 61-page business plan. It was it was art. It was spectacular. Only later did I realize that no, venture capitalists are probably not going to read a 61-page business plan, and so I started the process of first designing the product. What's it going to be? What's it going to do? And I based that on me having been out of high school at that point for over 40 years. What, what would I like? What is a yearbook? A yearbook is memories. That's it. Well, I'm in the information memory business. And there's stuff that I wished I could have done, especially for high school, which was a different experience certainly than college was. And I got, of course, the UT yearbook. It was given away at the time. I hope it still is. And um, and so I figured out what the product's going to be, did my design work, brought a couple of people in on the team, then had to figure out, I need to get some more money. I say some more money because I've been bootstrapping this thing. I've got well over $250,000 into it, and I'm not a rich man. So it's been difficult to do that. And so one of the first substantive things I did, I found an incubator, a startup incubator I'm pointing over here, across that. We're right on the water on the Long Island Sound, so right across the water is Westchester. And a guy named Les Newman owned the incubator. And he said, yes, send me your business plan. And he nearly cried but he read it. Met me in Brooklyn one day, and he thought this is something pretty special. And the very short version of of him, he eventually sold his incubator and asked me in a very poignant moment if he could be part of this. And I was, real thrilled to bring him in. And he has become the business of the business guy. All the stuff that instead of getting a degree in biology and chemistry, which had been fairly useless to me, I can't tell you the last time somebody asked me for the generic name of a blue crab, Calanectius epidus, by the way, just in case you need to know. I wish I'd taken a business degree. Oops, whatever. And so he's handling most of the stuff when we're dealing with investors, we're dealing with attorneys and whatnot. And of course, I'm immersed in the product, in marketing and sales et al., which works out very well for
Yeah,
us.
yeah. So, yeah, filling in the gaps with somebody who's got the expertise and the experience and the knowledge that you don't have, and that's a great lesson, I think, to learn. So, that's a great story. I love that you spent many years in the industry because, when we talk about how do you recognize opportunity, I always tell my students, look for a problem. That's where you're going to find opportunity. And so you started to recognize a problem. I also love that you started in sales because I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, a sales background can be really powerful because you are with the customer a lot. So you were getting feedback from the customers that this might be something that would be of interest. So take us through a little bit of understanding how this yearbook industry works.
Well,
Who is your
if I could, I'm sorry, I just interrupted. I apologize, but I want to circle back to the sales thing that you just addressed, and because I think this is really, really, really important, and then we'll go
Sure.
into the more pressing question. And sales, if the entrepreneurs who don't necessarily need to be salespeople, are the ones who have come up with a very highly technical product that you just explain it to the industry, and the industry says, "Oh yeah, we get this, we want this." Most of us are not there. So whereas I, as a salesman, yes, and you're exactly right. I realized there's a problem. I created a solution. I was and still am in the print side of the industry, and I was able to talk to people. What do you like? What do you dislike? I was doing various sessions and whatnot with them. However, that's just part of it. In you have to sell investors. You have to sell people that you want to bring onto your team. So it's constant selling. And I will suggest that anybody who does not have a salesman, I mean, right now they're thinking as I did, I need to bring in somebody for my business part of it and the technical part, my CTO and whatnot. But I don't think people often think to themselves, I really need to bring on a salesperson if they are not uh, reasonably talented salespeople. So I wanted to make that real clear, and I hope that will help out some people because salesmen aren't terribly hard to find. Just got find the guy who's talking all the time and making people laugh. That's the
You know,
guy. Or yeah.
before we get into digging into understanding your industry a little bit more, tell us how you learned to sell because that wasn't your academic training. So, how did you learn to sell? How did that get started for you?
Well, it's a great question. The There are no courses. There are no courses. I mean, certainly in normal education, in high school, in college. I don't know if you guys now
We
have
do. We do.
sales,
Yes.
sales 101. Okay, fantastic. I wish I had that. However, now the question begets: are salesmen created or are they born? And I'm going to come down on the born side. My dad was a salesman. I got his personality. I love genetics, well, stuff that I had obviously studied in college. But how did I get like this? Well, it was a combination of DNA and life experiences. My youngest son, who's now in his 30s, he's got my personality, and he is a remarkable salesman also. My older son has some of that, and that's been actually he has a lot of that. So I'm seeing that as a genetic factor and whatnot. And so when I say to the entrepreneurs, okay, you realize that you just don't know how to talk to people well. Go find somebody, and who do you find? Ask somebody, hey, are you a good salesman? Well, students in their 18, 20, they don't want to be salesmen. Nobody wants typically to be a salesman, or at least it was in my day, because salesmen were looked at as used car salesmen, insurance salesmen, those really annoying people who ask you two or three questions, and as soon as you give a positive answer, they say, "But how many do you want?" God, and that's embarrassing, but that's kind of the impression that many people have of salesmen. Um, so they will need to go out and spend time at parties, at events, or whatever, meet people who just have that outgoing personality. Well, that outgoing personality translates to probably being a salesman, as well as reasonable intellect and the ability to shut up and listen. Which is, that's sales 101. It took me a little while to figure that out because I tend to be just a little verbose and I kind of like to talk a little bit.
Yeah. Well, that's such a good point, right? Because the customer will tell you everything you need to know if you pos- pose the right questions and then be quiet and listen. Yeah, exactly. Shut your mouth. So you learned on the job, basically. Did you have training? Did you have mentors along the way?
Unfortunately, I never had a mentor, and that kind of makes me a little bit sad, and I don't know why that never happened. As far as the training, certainly, you get into a sales job, you're going to have sales training, and they will give you the stuff that is. At my time, this is in the 1970s, sales was not quite as sophisticated, really anywhere near as sophisticated as it is right now. But they taught us if the customer says this, then say this, which did not work. It never worked for me because I'm very extemporaneous. And so, yes, learned that on the job by talking to people. And it was really, it was who I am, which suited me very well. I was able to be who I am and not have to be somebody else. I'm very gregarious. And I have a couple of friends in the industry who are, you never would think they're salesmen. They're really serious. They're not very fun, and yet a couple of them have been wildly successful. So you don't necessarily have to be this what you're seeing right now. So that's pretty much where that came
Yeah.
from.
Yeah, I think there, with there is that debate about entrepreneurship, whether you're born or made, and same thing with sales. And I think a lot of it is, I think there's a mix basically, and a lot of marketing and selling is about communicating and reading the person that you're communicating with, understanding how what you're saying is affecting them, and sort of being ready to work with them and listen, as you pointed out. But I think it's important to have this conversation about sales, because even one of the things that I've done in the past, my students have worked with some of those technical and scientific people that you mentioned earlier, that might develop something that the market might get right away. And even in those cases, there's especially if it's innovation, there's market education, and you've got to educate the market on how the product works, or how to use it, and why they need it. So a lot of it is, communication and sales are so important, and a great way to start. And for many students who say to me, I don't know what I want to do, I encourage them to get out and just do something. Experience an industry, find out something, learn something, and learn along the way. And sales is a great place to start. And you started in the yearbook space, and is that a lot of cold calling, or I mean, what's the industry like?
Well, let's say what was the industry like, and it was Willy Loman. I remember my territory is New York City, so I'd drive into the city. I'd be able to walk to a building, big old school building, go into the side door over there, stroll right in, walk around, grab a kid in the hall and say, hey, where's your art teacher? Because oftentimes the yearbook advisor, whom I needed to speak with, is the art teacher. Oh, yeah, she's in Ms. Jones 237. Go up to 237. I'd stand there outside the door, glancing in, not wanting to intrude. Oftentimes, art teachers are very flexible. Wait, there's an opportunity. Hi, Mrs. Jones. My name is Tom Kehoe, Taylor Publishing Company. So nice to meet you. Say, could I talk to you about your yearbook? And cold calling, nobody likes it. Nobody likes it. I did it very aggressively. I did it very well. I just said to myself, okay, this is what I got to do. And I became one of the best salesmen in the industry for any number of reasons, one of which is work ethic, one of which is my need to persevere. We'll come back to persevere in a couple of minutes. And so, yeah, tons of cold calling. Now, flash to the 2024, I can't get into the parking lot of a school that has parking lots. In Long Island, they do. There's a guard. He says, what do you want? Well, hi. Trying to be charming. Nice to meet you. Make him laugh. And I said, I'd like to talk to your yearbook advisor. The guy says, okay, give me your card. I'll see that she gets it. Well, that doesn't work. It's not going to work. She is not, oh, Tom Kehoe, I think I'll give him a call. I can't if I can get into the building, I'm stopped at the gatekeeper. No, you can't come in. And that's a combination of security issues that have become much more complicated in past decade. And they just don't want people roaming the halls. And yeah, I was roaming the halls, that's for sure. And so now, as I'm coming to the end of my print yearbook life, the only way to reach out is digitally. And that takes away one of my best tools, which is me, the ability to talk to people, bond with them, make them feel good. And now I have a better opportunity to say, and oh, by the way, after we had a lot of laughs, I've got a product, and let me go ahead and tell you all about that. So it is absolutely, completely changed. And I'll say not for the better, because I kind of like being Willy Loman.
Yeah. I mean, I understand, and it's kind of sad that we've lost a lot of that. But what does your marketing look like now? And tell us a little bit about how the industry for digital yearbooks work.
Well, let me qualify by sharing with you what the problem is. And it turns out for me and for what I'm doing, it's not what the problem is, what the problems are. My experience, I've always worked very closely with my yearbook staffs. I show up at my schools every 3 weeks. My competitors and many of my compatriots will only show up at a school. Hey, call me when you need me. Well, it's complicated putting together a yearbook. I know that if I got a customer who's upset, having a hard time, not upset with me, just having a hard time, I'm exposed. I'm vulnerable. I do not like to be vulnerable. So I make sure I visit with everybody every 3 weeks. On my business card, it had, before cell phones, it had my home number, it still does, and it says 24/7. And I would let people know, I say, you call me at 3 in the morning, I'm going to pick up the phone. And I did. Didn't get a lot of calls at 3 in the morning because you know what, they're in bed too and they don't want to get up. But being connected is important. So I know intimately what's going on. And here's the problem in the industry: prices have just been getting out of control. The complication of building a yearbook is extremely difficult. the end product, yearbooks came into the modern yearbook, if you will, around 1890. There's yearbooks. Yale came out with a yearbook in 1865, and they're the first one on record who's done anything like that. But those kids in 1890 got their yearbook. They opened it up. They flipped through the book. They looked at the pictures. They read the text. And in 2023, last year, I delivered thousands of yearbooks. The students did the same thing, opened it up, flipped it. The end user experience has not changed. The build process has changed. That's done in a computer. The end user hasn't changed at all. Generation Z doesn't want to flip through pages. They want to swipe through pages. They spend, as you know well as better than I, the students spend an average of 7.6 hours a day interacting with their phones. And in my focus groups, I'd ask the students 3 questions. Simple. I'd sit with anywhere from 5 to 20 students, a couple of administrators. Hey, do you want your yearbook on your phone? The overwhelming response was yes, because we want anything that can be on the phone to be on the phone. Number 2, do you like the product? And the product, I don't know if you had a chance to go on our website. It's just blisteringly exciting, from video to updatability at all. And I won't sell the product right now, even though I want to, because I'm a salesman and I want to sell pretty much everything else to stop myself. Number 3, I'd ask them how much you're willing to pay for this product. They said anywhere from $20 to $60, which is a little bit under the typical price of a print yearbook. But when I told them it was $5, they carnival freaked. It was so much fun. I did 12 of these. I got the exact same results on every single one. Why did I keep on going? Because it felt good. It was validation, and I enjoyed it. So that's the only reason I did that. And so once I got, the validation and was able to now start going through so how do I sell this product to? And I sell it to the principal. I sell it to the stakeholders or the principal, the yearbook advisor, and the students. And each one of them has a different need. And I can help the yearbook advisor by coming out with a product they don't have to collect money for, by coming up with a product that is drag and drop, simple to put together, by coming up with a product that the students want that they don't have to go out and sell. The students, they got a product that has, we're on audio, I'm just spreading my arms out this far. This is how much information a print book has by information. I'm talking about pictures at all. This is how many, I just spread my arms way out. This is how much information a digital yearbook can have. I can have, I'll say, I can't say literally, but almost literally, unlimited information, unlimited amount of pictures. I have students sitting down and coming up to the yearbook advisor when I'm there, and she say, and I remember a little girl a couple of months ago saying, Miss Jones, the yearbook advisor, could we get the sewing club into the yearbook? And she, sadly said, no, we really can't do that. And the girl walked away, a little bit dejected. And the advisor turned to me and said, we just can't afford more than 208 pages. And so, we can't get that kind of stuff in. Well, in Idiom Connect, the name of our product, not only can we get the 3 students who are in the sewing club, but we can get 265 pictures of them in there and 6 or 7 or 8 videos if they want. So we've got answers. We can keep the reason we call it Idiom Connect is because the protocol within the software, within the app, allows the students to stay in touch with each other, allows them to update what we call the My Page, which is their portal, their branding in the book. So the things, again, video is something that I don't have in my yearbook. I don't think you have in your yearbook either. And by the way, I ask this question often, and I'm going to ask you personally, where's your yearbook?
in a box. I actually
Oh,
know where it is, which is probably a lot of people are like, I don't know, but I do happen to have my high school yearbooks in a box, and I sort of know where the box is, but not. It
and
would
you
take me a
sort of
while.
do. And and mine is I'm pointing over there to my garage where I have two yearbooks in a box. I know where it is too. I haven't seen it in 30 years, my UT yearbook and my high school yearbook. And there's kind of less reason to look at it because it's a static product. I've seen it, I'll say 20, 25 times in my life. Let me go through it as we get older and more nostalgic. If it was on the desk right here, I definitely grab it and go through it again. But if your yearbook, somebody asks the kids in a couple of years, "Where's your yearbook?" Well, it's here. It's right near. How far is your phone away from me? It's never farther than I'm stretching my arm out. That's where the phone is. That's where your information is. And now I can stay in touch with my friends. I can keep updated at all.
Yeah. So let me make sure I understand this correctly. Do schools have both print and digital now, or are the ones that are going digital going fully digital?
Fantastic question. And this is we did a beta launch last year, figured out, yeah, okay, made some mistakes, fixed them. And now we're doing our first launch. Right now, we're kind of rewriting the software. We're sort of in a transition period. But the reality is that the majority of schools, I'd say 90%, will be doing both a print and a digital yearbook because the digital yearbook, again, one of the reasons for the $5 price break point is so that students didn't have to make the Sophie's choice between buying the 70, 80, $125 print book and what would be maybe a 20 or $30. It's just they're not going to buy them both. So I want traction. I'm sort of using a version of the of the what are those cars that drive around instead of taxis?
Like
Ubers.
Uber? Yeah. Mhm.
I'm using it now. They're still losing money on every ride. I don't know how they're still in business. They got billions of dollars investments. I'm making money at $5, but I'm also not making a ton. I want to get traction. I want Idiom to be the de facto yearbook, the de facto digital product in the schoolhouse. And when I get competitors, and I will, I am positioning myself right now to keep them at bay as best as I
Yeah.
can.
So this is really interesting because another problem that schools have, especially at the collegiate level, is staying in touch with their alum. And of course, we love to be in touch with our alum for a lot of reasons, and one of them is fundraising. So I
All
don't know
right.
if you've made that pitch or not, but what you're talking about really is an app that I would have on my phone permanently as and that all and through my high school or college yearbook advisor, we actually decide what's going to go in there, but I also can customize what I have there as my contact information, and so that over the years, when we're planning our 10-year or 15 or 20-year reunion, we have this app that we can go to. Are you the first to market with this, or are there others that have been that
Yes,
are
there's nothing like this. And by the way, one of the sections, I mean, we have sections in the yearbook in Idiom Connect that you simply can't have. And one of them is future events. The students can, there's 5 future events in there. So a student goes off to upper level education. She marks there, says, I went to Radcliffe College. When they get a job, they can post that for the whole class to see. When they get married, when they have a baby, when they have reunions. Not everybody can get to the reunions, so the pictures will be uploaded, videos will be uploaded, and they will also be able to structure it so that everybody in the class can reach out to the entire class. So if you have a fundraising situation, yes, that can be a vehicle to reach out to the entire class. And I might also suggest that deadlines, I forgot to mention deadlines before. Nobody, nobody meets their deadlines anymore. Nobody does. Well, to get a print yearbook in time, you got to finish it at least 7 to 8 weeks before the end of the year. And what does that mean? End of year activities just aren't going in. There's a lot of cool stuff like graduation, most important day of the year, prom, et al. The spring sports and whatnot. So our deadline is not a number of weeks. It's 12 minutes. You hit the publish button on June 5th, and then on June 13th, the prom happens. That gets pushed into the book. Graduation happens. That gets pushed into the book. And the book is a live document. It will be constantly being updated through the life of the students.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool idea. I'm sold, and you're a good salesperson. But let me talk about you and building this company. So I think if I have my data correct, you worked over 40 years at one company, and you were primarily in sales. I think you said a little bit ago. So instead of retiring after 42 years, you started a new company. And did you start this company while you were still working, or did you literally retire and go to an
No,
encore?
I am still working
Okay.
for Taylor was changed to Balfour. They changed the name, so I'm still working for them. And also, maybe of interest is I all along when I first started thought that this is a product I'm going to design, I'm going to put together, and then bring it to my company and saying this is going to. And by the way, the yearbook industry is at an inflection point. It is a mess. It doesn't know what it wants to do. Students are finding print products less and less relevant, and they are all trying to introduce a digital component without a true digital product. And what that means is they're pushing out foolishness that nobody's using. And I would go into, I've been in touch with most of the major yearbook companies, and I would start like this. I'd start off with a sales manager. Love sales managers. They want to sell. They want to grow. Okay, fantastic. They're loving this. They're seeing this as revenue generation. They bring me up to the C-suite people. They loved it. When they start telling me why this is a good idea, I'm thinking, okay, I got this locked up. Then they go to the CEO who says, what are you kidding? We bring this aboard. It's going to cannibalize our high profit margin print products. So I was not able to get any traction in there, which has forced me to go out on my own, which is what I'm doing. So my print business has receded greatly for a number of reasons I won't bore you with, but I'm still doing some of that. But I'm not really kind of making enough money to live on that right now. So I'm working on savings and taking that money and putting it back into the company. And as of the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've got a potential investor who just may completely change the trajectory of this company.
So that I was going to ask you. So you're a few years into the concept, I think, and you've been bootstrapping it, but you're looking for investors, or have been, and as you just pointed out, you may have someone. Do you? It's a pretty heavy lift to build your software for something like this. So could you talk about lessons you might have learned? I started a software company myself, and it was like Goldilocks. We built it 3 times. First time didn't do enough. The second time was overkill. It took the third time to get to what would work. And there's a lot of money involved in that, typically. So could you talk about that? Because I think some of the listeners might be really interested in how you can get a software-based company built on a bootstrap.
Well, ouch. And yes, this is it was incredibly difficult and complicated. I designed the software. I do not know ones and zeros, but I do know, again, I had a deep vision of what this is going to look like. Then I started to talk to software companies who said, oh, we can do this part of it, this feature, but we can't do this feature. And I don't take no for an answer, for better or for worse. And so I said, fine, next. Eventually, during this period of time when I was just starting to interview, and I made some mistakes. And if we have time, I would like to share those, because I think the best way to learn how not to do something is watch somebody else.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I realized that I needed money. I was meeting with investors who were saying, "Oh my gosh, this makes sense." Anybody over the age of 40 would say to me, "Isn't this already being done?" And the answer was no. So, and understandably, because the digital is the next evolutionary step to in this product. And so I had investors. I had a guy offer me $1.5 million, and he just was the wrong guy to bring into this company for reasons I won't bore you with. It was really, really hard, but I just had to say, no, I can't take your money. And then I ate a pint of Haagen-Dazs ice cream and cried myself to sleep. Um, I had investors say, look, love this, but my investment policy is to never be the first in. Get $400,000 and then I'll come in. And I said, well, if I get 400 grand, I'm just not going to need you. So anyway, I had to get money for my software because I knew I thought I could find investors just with a great, with a really nice looking static test article. Hey, here's what it looks like. Here's what it's going to do. Yeah, that looks swell. Do it. Okay, that was one of my hard lessons to learn. I had to have it. So at that point, I went out and got an SBA loan. I put my house, everything I own is tied up in what I'm doing. I am all in. And by the way, hey kids, if you're not going to be all in, don't bother. Just don't bother. Go off and get a job somewhere else. So I got 100 grand. And that started the process of being able to interview software companies in earnest, and found one that I liked, and they happened to be in Siberia. So the daily commute was just brutal. And I found that software companies outside of the country typically are considerably less expensive than they are here in the States. So after interviewing a number of companies and having money, you got money. Everything is easier. It's just everything is easier. Without money, you're begged, borrowing, and I'm not going to say stealing, but I considered stealing multiple times. No, I did not. And so that's how I got that going. And then to be able to sit down with the software writers who know software intimately, and now they're talking to me ostensibly in ones and zeros, and I'm saying, hamina, what does that mean? Okay, I had to learn. I had to figure out. I had to learn stuff. And again, bring people in to the company. I know I don't know everything. If I don't know something, I'm going to find somebody who does, and I'm going to bring them into the company. And that's how that went.
So tell me about your team now. Do you have full-time people working with you, or is this mostly people that you've brought in? Are you sharing ownership? I think a lot of our listeners who are launching would be really interested in some of the things you're learning about how to build the company, again, still on a bootstrap and on your own money and sweat equity.
Yeah, this is really hard. Well, I'm going to actually qualify that. It hasn't been really hard, and here's why. Somebody like Les, my COO right now that I talked about before, he believed in it. He wanted in. The people I brought in about 5 people into the company right now, and some of them because they had skill sets that I needed, some of them because they had contacts I needed, some of them because of the industry that they were in that I needed. I'm going to say I sold them. And that sounds like, I'm just making stuff up. No, I showed them the product. I told them about the direction. I told them where we're going to go, what kind of company that I want this to be. And the people who I have not ever had anybody say, no, I do not want to be part of this. They all said, yeah, we want to be part of this. Okay, not paying yet. Yeah, okay, we don't care. And what I will do is I will give them equity positions when when everything kind of settles down. So if you have a good enough product and you can share that product with enthusiasm, for me, it has not been difficult to get people involved, because people are by nature, saying greedy sounds like a pejorative, but we all want something good, something exciting. With the advent of, I'm going to blame the Shark Tank for this. Everybody thinks they can be an entrepreneur. I can do that. A gal that she's, I can do this. And so that's a good thing. It's a bad thing, but that means that it's a much more crowded market. That means there's more people chasing the limited funds that are out there, especially in the early stages, pre-seed. Man, when I talk to people, I would say 10% of the people I talk to who what I'm doing comes up, say, "Oh, I got an idea," and they tell it to me, and I got to say, "No, don't do that. People aren't going to want that," and make them think about what they're doing. I do it very gracefully, but graciously, but it's still difficult. So. It hasn't been hard. And again, if they have the great idea and they have the vision that they can share with somebody, that is going to be their first step in putting together a team that's going to help them get to where they need to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty, every entrepreneurial venture is very different, but the pathway there are a lot of tried and true, tried and tested, let me put it that way, methods for getting there. And, one of the advantages you had obviously was many years of experience in the industry, which helps with your network basically. And so networking is a really important skill. It's very closely tied to sales skills, being able to communicate with people, understanding the reciprocity involved in the relationship building, and that everybody comes with their own agenda, and how can you help meet that and then reach the goals that you're trying to achieve. You mentioned earlier that you had made some mistakes, and failure is always part of the pathway to anything meaningful, success in any way. So I'm just curious, do you have a story, a failure story, maybe that you'd be willing to share? And how do you look
A,
at failure?
a failure story?
Well, we may not
First
have
of all,
time for all of them, because on the path to success, there's always a lot.
and there's a bunch. First of all, I want to say that in the beginning, the first couple of months, because the idea was so pressing, because it just made so much sense, I was getting a lot of positive information getting back. I was having people there. I've been through a plethora of people who said, I want to invest in this. I want to invest in this. They can't. They don't have the money, and they don't. But they get excited and they want to be part of that. Well, after 3 or 4 months, I thought to myself, "Gosh, gee whiz, this is easy." No, then I said, no, it can't be this easy. And I was right. It wasn't this easy. So mistakes early on, and this is probably not something I'm going to say you guys listening will run into, you guys and gals will run into. But I was introduced to an attorney because I was told, okay, we got to get our corporate structure in place. That was a gigantic mistake. Putting together the corporate structures, probably as well as I, it's just not that complicated. You get a decent lawyer, they will put it together. I ended up with a white shoe Wall Street attorney who charges $600 an hour. He sat me down. He said, "Oh man, yeah, this is a home run." Okay, well, I know he just wasn't blowing smoke up my somewhere because he was right. I knew it was a great idea, but he then started to put my corporate structure together so that we were ready for a public launch. Even then I'm thinking, I seem to be like really far away from a public launch, from going public, for goodness sakes. He would call me up and we'd have a conversation for 20 or 30 minutes and a lot of personality stuff because he likes to talk and whatnot. And then he'd call me up 2 days later with the exact same conversation. And eventually I started to realize this guy is doing billable hours. And I was into $60,000 to this guy, and I'm not the brightest guy this side of the Picos, but I was starting to realize I was being taken advantage of, and I eventually fired him. But when people tell you stuff, and now I'm talking to our friends who are listening to this, listen hard, and even if they seem like they know what they're talking about, you have to go back and parse it. I'm going to say, swindled, no. Tricked, nah. Talked out of quite a few $1,000s. The lawyer was the worst. But people who are telling me that, oh, I can get you money. This industry is unbelievably full of crooks. People, a flim flam man, we'd call them in the 20s. People who are just, they know you're desperate. All of us startup guys, we're all desperate. We need money. Just get me some money and whatnot. Somebody comes along and says, "Yeah, I can get you money." Oh, really? Okay, good. He tells you all why, gives you all stuff, and then says, "Oh, by the way, I'm going to need $1,500 to start." Okay. If anybody says that to anybody, please listen to me. Anybody says that, they are lying. They are lying. They are lying. And so that's a huge issue. So I think that was some of my biggest mistakes.
Yeah, that's really great advice, and I agree with you. I mean, in the very beginning, it's so important to test what you're doing without investing a ton of money, and you can create a legal entity. It's probably more important to have somebody make sure that you meet the tax and licensing and any other kinds of any relationships that you enter into, so that you've got those clarified, and because that's what I see comes back really to bite most people.
And I agree with you. But at the stage I was, I didn't have to worry about that. I hadn't launched the
Sure.
product, didn't have any illegal liabilities and whatnot. So, and the people I was meeting, it was fine. So yes, I don't need to mitigate the need for corporate. I now have a Silicon Valley corporate guy who is just really sharp. He brought us in saying, okay, understand your startup, understand you're kind of short on money. I will take you in. I will do your corporate work for you, and I won't charge you until you get funded. And he only takes a handful of companies in under that. So I was very excited to get part of that. And now he's guiding us in a proper way. And again, I'm just smart enough now not to be bamboozled.
Sure, sure. And that's such, I really love that you shared that, because I think that those early mistakes can, a lot of times it's just, can you have enough resources to get you through the early mistakes that you make, and keep going. And some people, unfortunately, uh, you know, will take advantage of you if you're not careful. So really good advice and good lessons. And it's kind of cool that somebody who spent even 40 years in business can say, hey, I learned this. And I'm guessing you're continuing to learn every day as an entrepreneur.
As it turns out, is very annoying. I'm 70, and there's talk about retirement before. No, I have recognized that the true key to happiness is productivity, doing stuff, and so I hope never to retire. There will probably be, if this goes where it should go, there will probably be a pretty substantial exit, and at that point, I've got a couple of other ideas that I'm real excited about bringing to
It
market
sounds
too.
like you've gotten bit by the entrepreneurial bug.
Ouch! Ouch!
Well, it's really exciting. I love it. I talk a lot about how you find opportunity and how you build companies and how you continue to remain resilient in the face of failure. And your journey, your entrepreneurial journey, is in many ways just getting started. But you've already shared so many great pieces of advice and a lot of wisdom. So I'm really curious. You said you've got is it your beta version ready to launch, or it is launching? So where are you right now with the company?
So right now we're going to the software I built, as I said before. When my new CTO took over, he went in there, looked at the ones and zeros, said, "Oh crap, was so poorly built that if we have a problem that we need to fix that could take an hour and a half, it's going to take 4 or 5 days because it is just a jumble. It's a complete mess." And so okay, so I'm in the process of now spending another $120,000 having that rebuilt. He's in the process of doing that. To work in New York City, I had to get my software certified because I'm in the schools, I'm dealing with student information, so they want to make sure that's right. I'm in the process of getting that done, and that has been just bureaucratically
Yeah.
horrific. But you persevere, you get through that. So the software should be done. One of the people I brought into the company, I'm going to say, owns Staten Island, in that he works for the Board of Ed, and he is the one who goes in and interfaces with exactly the people I need, the COSAs, the yearbook advisors, the APs. And so he fell in love with this, and he said, I'm going to bring this into Staten Island. I'm going to get this into 100 schools. That will be huge because, as you know, when you're talking to VC, they're saying how much traction you have, or you're talking to Mark Cuban on the Shark Tank. How much traction do you have? And I have a Mark Cuban story I'll tell in a second. And so I have to have some traction. I will now be in a position to get that traction. The gentleman I'm speaking to, the very wealthy man in Scottsdale, Arizona, name is Jim. He is causing me to pivot in a direction I never thought I would. And by the way, another thing that we have to be aware of is that we have to be able to pivot. I read a story one time when I was doing my research on how to be an entrepreneur. one of the people wrote this. They said the product that you designed is not going to be the product that you put together.
Sure.
And I said, come on, oops, yet again. And he's saying to me, let's introduce a print book with it. Well, when people have asked me that question, I said, why would I introduce a product that I'm putting to bed? And why would I go in that direction? Well, he's number one, he's excited. Number two, he's got big, deep pockets. I want him involved. Number three, he forced me to come up with a solution for a print book, which is not going to go away overnight. Eventually, it's going to go away, but it's not going to go away overnight. I've innovated a product where once you've created the digital book, you can easily create the print book, and we can take that print book, instead of owning a printing press, a printing plant, I can go to digital printing companies all over the nation. I can have regional plants next to big markets, and I can cut enormous amounts of money out of that and have a easier to create products. So it's kind of, this is real new information. It's kind of exciting. One of the other things I realized when I was putting together this product is I went to a Broadway show just not so far from here, and I was handed a playbill, and I'm all excited. I'm always early. I sit down and go through my playbill and say, oh, this is junk. It's got very little information in it. Oh, I can, wait a second, with the software I'm designing, I can create a digital version of the playbill. Flash to 2 years later, about a year ago, I'm meeting with Phil Birch, the owner of Playbill, who eventually said to me, yeah, I can do that. And that all went bad when his son, who was taking over the company from him, said, gosh, Dad, if we do that, we're going to kill our $50 million a year print playbill dynasty, which they've had, and they're the only ones in the market. So I will be bringing that product to schools, then I'll be bringing it to off-Broadway, then I'll bring it to Broadway, and I'm going to destroy that industry. I also realized I can put together a sports product. A football team at a high school got nothing like this. They've got maybe 2 or 3 pages in their yearbook. Oh, I've got a product for you too. And I shared it with Mark Cuban, who said, dig this, because I'm going to bring this to pro sports, all sports, college, etc. I mean, oh my gosh, the market is so ripe. And he said, get $100,000 in traction there, and I want in. Well, I have to focus on the print book. However, writing the software, porting it from from the digital yearbook to these vertical products is going to be very simple and easy to do, because the core software has already been written. So I'm going to have products. I've developed a wedding book, because the wedding industry, millennials are simply not purchasing the print version that I had printed in 1976 when I got married. And where is it now? I ain't got a clue, and I wouldn't look at it anyway. And so there are products now for sororities and for fraternities, for police departments, fire departments, military, and I could go on and on. So we're going to be in a position where we're going to be constantly innovating. As a guy named Drucker, I forget his first name, I think it was Drucker, said, innovate or die.
Peter Drucker. Peter Drucker. Yeah.
Peter Drucker, and Bob Iger actually stole that quote. I thought he was the first one who used it. But anyway, we're in a position to constantly add new products to the industry, and completely, I hope our plan is now, the big plan is to be the major source of print to digital migration products. And so I'm all out of breath. You see, you get me all excited. This is what happens.
Well, I was going to ask you what's next, but you've got a long pipeline and lots of great ideas. I love it. And, it's just a reminder of the importance of passion and belief in what you're doing, and how important that is. Because as you pointed out earlier, it's hard work. I know it sounds wonderful to everybody listening, but there's I think 4 or 5 years of hard work that, plus your whole 40-year career before that of learning, that's all gone into this. So it's really exciting. I love it. I'm sold, and I'm excited to see where you go, and excited that an alumnus of the school where I'm teaching is finding this. And it's, to me, it's really kind of fun and exciting that you're doing this even after a very successful career, or as an add-on, let me put it that way, maybe an encore career, to think about it that way. So that's kind of exciting. I'd love to keep talking. I think you and I could probably talk for another hour or two. But I always like to bring these conversations for the podcast to a conclusion by asking my listeners if they had one piece of advice. And this is probably going to be a hard one for you because you've got a lot. But if you had one piece of advice for somebody who is maybe facing or hoping to be on an entrepreneurial journey or on a similar path, what would that advice be?
And this is not a hard question. And it's a one word answer. And that answer is persevere. It is, your journey is going to be fraught with complications, with stunning disappointments, and difficulties, things you don't know that, oh my gosh, now suddenly you have to know. This is really, really, really hard. And I could add another 3 or 4 reallys to that. If you aren't willing to persevere and pull yourself up together when you get knocked out, we've heard the term, when you get knocked down or fall off a horse, get back on it. If you're not the kind of person who does that, simply don't get involved. Just absolutely don't waste your time in this. But if you are that kind of a person and you have at least a reasonably good concept, then charge hard.
I love it. And you're in very good company with that advice. I think there's a quote from Steve Jobs that the difference between successful and unsuccessful entrepreneurs is perseverance. So, it's very wise advice. So, Tom, where can our listeners find out more about you and maybe connect with you and find out about Idiom Publishing?
Well, you know what? I think going to the website, which is idiomconnect.com, and look at the product. Find out what the product is, and look at it with the entrepreneurial eye to think to yourself. Because I spell out the problems and the solutions in there. I do it in a sales way, not in a business way, because I don't need to do it in that situation. But think to yourself, does this make sense? Do I like this? If anybody wants to reach out to me personally, I would love to communicate with them at my email address, which you should have is tkehoe, Kehoe, at idiom, idiomyb.com. Love to talk to them, and if anybody wants to end up making some phone calls or Zoom sessions, I'd be happy to do that. I didn't have this. I didn't have anybody in the industry who's doing this, because in my world, my 70-year-old friends, they're done. So I would be happy to be that resource.
Thank you, Tom. This has been delightful. I've really enjoyed it. And I know that our listeners will take away a lot of valuable lessons from our conversation. Thank you so much. And I'm excited to see what happens with Idiom. It's an exciting product, actually an exciting suite of products that you talked about. So really looking forward to seeing that.
Good. You know what? And I will keep you informed. I'll send you a note now and again to keep you apprised.
That sounds great. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to learn more about entrepreneurship, we would love it if you hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of InFactor.